With more and more media coverage around Blackrock's Bitcoin ETF, we're starting to see volatility pick up inside of crypto stocks. In today's video, I'll share 3 stocks in particular that I'm paying attention to where this volatility is increasing. Now let's start by first reviewing the 3 stocks, and then we'll dive straight into charts. Now 2 of the 3 stocks today appeared on our overlap tab. This means we had a pristine volatility setup in which we had both an hourly and a daily volatility edge at the same time. Now the first stock we'll talk about is Coinbase, and it appeared on this overlap list. So that's stock number 1. Stock number 2 that we'll talk about appeared 2 different times on our live scanner, and that's Marathon Holdings. You can see 1 and 2. The first time it appeared, which is right here, was for a short side setup, and the second time for a long side setup. So Marathon, very clearly a lot more volatility compared to usual, given that we had both a short and long setup, and you'll see that when we get to charts. Finally, the third stock that we'll take a look at is CleanSpark Technologies, which appeared on the daily tab, and that was for a long side entry off of the conservative Volatility Box models. So 3 stocks that we're going to take a look at: Coinbase, Marathon Holdings, and then finally CleanSpark Technologies. Now as we go through these stocks, notice the differences in volatility. You'll see Coinbase had the least volatility, Marathon had the most volatility, and CleanSpark was somewhere in between. Now let's start with Coinbase first. Coinbase appeared on our live scanner when we had price action breach our upper Volatility Box models. We had a short side setup inside of Coinbase, and that was right here. That was near the 162 price level, and you can see how sellers come in right at that level. We have the first leg down lower, the second retest, which ends up being a double top. We have the 1-2 punch setup, and after that second momentum cross, you can see the dump that kicks into full gear inside of Coinbase. If you wanted an earlier entry, you could even use the overbought confirmations here with the edge signal arrows, which we had print 2 different times. So Coinbase today was the cleanest setup. Price stayed well inside of our Volatility Box clouds, and that too the aggressive models. The setup came early in the morning, near 7:30. You had your follow through by the end of the lunchtime hour, went to the other side's target line before reversing from there and bouncing all the way into the long side's target lines. So still a back and forth, but a nice short side setup. So that's Coinbase, the first stock we'll talk about. Now contrast this setup with Marathon Holdings, which is the second stock. Right off the bat, you should notice price action has gone outside of both sets of clouds here. Now if you remember, the first setup we said was the short side setup. Now inside of Marathon, we had price action breach the aggressive Volatility Box clouds and the conservative clouds. You can see the first overbought confirmation appears right here near the 8:25 a.m. mark inside of Marathon. After that, we had 3 candles of really just choppy price action with upside wicks before you can see that momentum switches and the dump that comes in inside of Marathon. Now the dump is what also takes us into the second setup on the live scanner, which was the long side setup. Same idea here, you can see momentum crosses along with this time our oversold confirmation, and you can see the pump this time that comes inside of Marathon. Very similar to Coinbase, but here a lot more volatility. So Marathon here broke well outside of our Volatility Box clouds on the short side, not so much on the long side, but really helps illustrate just how much volatility there was. Finally, the last stock we have is CleanSpark Technologies, which you should notice is in between. Now CleanSpark here breached the conservative Volatility Box models. We then had the oversold confirmation along with the momentum cross. You can even see the sellers tried once to bring price action lower, but the buyers very quickly shut that down. Now CleanSpark was just a slow grind into the close, but not a whole lot of heat on this trade, especially when you contrast it with the volatility that we saw inside of Marathon Holdings. So out of the 3 stocks that we talked about today, Coinbase was the one with the least volatility. In fact, if I add back in our aggressive Volatility Box models, you can see what that looked like and very easily contrast that to Marathon. Marathon very clearly was the most volatility here with price action going outside of the clouds. And finally in between was CleanSpark Technologies, a little bit more systematic with that second leg lower and then the reversal into the close. So keep an eye on these three stocks as we start to see more and more Bitcoin or crypto volatility start to pick up here. If you want to keep things nice and simple, just pay attention to the overlap tab, and you can see there today we found 2 of the 3 stocks we talked about. If you want some more setups, you can also use the daily tab, which is where we found CleanSpark today. So a lot of different volatility opportunities for you to pick and take advantage of as we get into the final stretch of this year. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and I'll see you in our next update.